You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Alright folks, welcome to the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darrow O'Connor and I am not alone. I am joined by the one, the only, Mr. Martin Herty, 1-0. Sir, welcome.
Delighted to be here, Darrow. Delighted. I know we've been talking the past few weeks about recent wrestling shows and different things, but delighted to be hopping in the time machine again.
We are.
Not going back to In Your House.
Oh.
It's okay to take a wee break from In Your House. It's been a bit of a slog, but really excited to watch this pay-per-view. That, I mean, I don't think Tony Khan could have hyped up a huge announcement more than you had hyped up 2007 TNA Hard Justice.
Because I deliver on my promises.
Don't start the podcast off with a fight, Dara.
No, I'm not, but I do. I mean, I was saying I have a heck of a show. TNA wasn't always bad. It was phenomenal. Let's watch a show that I'm actually in the video package for. You know,
I'd
I mean,
forgotten that when
I'm literally in the video package.
And I forgot to keep an eye out for you.
In the main event, go back and watch it because it's all on YouTube. Like TNA actually put the majority of the shows up on YouTube, which is amazing, and it's so sound for free. You can actually just see me really confused at certain points. But like, what is this?
What is TNA?
Yeah, you can just. I'm actually over Kurt Angle's shoulder on the right hand side.
Nice.
So you can actually see me properly. Like it's hilarious. But you can see me when I was 17. So yeah, I look relatively the same. So it's pretty funny. So yeah, I was a little bit selfish with this week because I just kind of wanted you to not to watch myself on television again, but to just enjoy what is like probably the last peak pure TNA show, but has a lot of TNA elements to it, including the main event, which is for every belt in TNA.
Not just in TNA.
All the belts, which is funny in and of itself. So, like, guys, you're in for a heck of a treat. I very much enjoy going back to watch this. It's like peak TNA, and we're like a month away from it like Impact stopping being a thing and it going back to TNA. It's from the Impact Zone. It has Mike Tenay and the Great Don West. It has everything you could possibly want in a wrestling show, and it just makes me a very, very happy wrestling fan to go back and watch peak TNA before the sad times, before Hogan shows up and ruined everything. But
yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here. There's a lot of stuff here that isn't great, but that is a great concept, maybe just not executed as well as it could have been. There's a lot of stuff here that is a little bit reminiscent of modern day AEW.
Yeah, I know.
In that it's like a buffet type thing. You know, you've got your high flyers, you know, in your X division.
And it has Christian Cage.
And it has Christian Cage, and it has Samoa Joe.
But no, it has like peak Christian Cage with Tomko.
I can't wait to talk.
The Christian Coalition, man.
I can't wait to talk about Christian.
Oh, God, I love Christian Cage. You know
but
what?
No,
so hold on, sorry.
Yeah.
I've made no secret that like Triple H is my favorite wrestler, right? But you know who's very close to him? Christian Cage.
There you go, and with good reason.
And with good reason. And it's so funny because people are like, "Oh, his WWE run wasn't that great." I'm like, "Yeah, it wasn't. His TNA run was amazing, and his AEW run is phenomenal." So it's like, but it's so sad because it's like people haven't seen the TNA run. It's like this is where he figured all this out, you know. So I could gush about Christian Cage for days.
Oh no,
I guess we will,
and we will, yeah. But no, like you have your X Division stuff, you have your hardcore stuff, you have your like actually really great technical mat wrestling stuff, you have your sports entertainment, your storylines, you have your massive gimmicks. There's like a proper like a buffet, like a spread of different wrestling styles here. Yeah, and I have to say overall, like despite its obvious flaws and all that, I really enjoyed this. We review shows a lot of times where we would say to people, if you're going to go back and watch this, just watch this match. This is all it's worth, or just watch this promo. This is the only thing that's worth the time. This is worth watching, and especially the fact that you can just log on to YouTube, or you don't even have to log on. I don't know why I'm talking like I'm 80. But
you just go to YouTube and type it in.
Go to YouTube, visit YouTube. A light upon YouTube and get it for free. This is well worth watching.
No, it really is. And it's one of those things where when you're watching it, I think it not only takes you back, but really just gives you a new appreciation for modern wrestling, but also the best of TNA. You know, it's a totally different vibe.
It's such a great time to be Dara. Punk is back. TNA is back. Like, what?
I mean,
what other return would finish this for you? Cannibal Corpse.
No, it's
coming back.
No, it's unfortunate because like Bray Wyatt can't come back.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of devastating, and neither can Triple H. Because Triple H is, if he wrestles again, he'll die. So, it's okay. We'll get the Motor City Machine Guns again.
It's like Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Speaking of which, though, we got the Guns on this show. We also got Rhino. We got all the lads, including Chris Harris and Black Rain for some reason.
Is that Rhino with an I or a Y?
With an I.
Is that Rhino or Rhino?
It's Rhino.
Rhino.
I have to say, that's the most like alpha move ever. It's like, right, you own my gimmick? Don't care.
I'm going to change one letter.
I'm going to change one letter. Wear the same gear. Use the same finisher. One letter difference.
I love it that he went to a different company. He's like, oh no, I'm Rhino or R-I-K-N-O-W. Rhino.
So speaking of which, folks, we're going to go through this show. So step back in the time machine with us. We're going all the way back to August 12th, 2007 in Orlando, Florida at the Impact Zone. Attendance of 900. Tagline is all or nothing. And it's funny because I had just come back from Orlando a couple of days beforehand. So I was actually in like a block of these tapings before the pay-per-view. There's like 4 weeks of Impact I'm in. And then it turns out my dad, they used to like recycle footage. And my dad would show up in random episodes of Impact for like 4 years after this until they moved and changed away from the ring. Because they just like, I remember I was watching it. I'm like, Dad, you're randomly in Impact. What's going on? He's like, yeah, I am. And they just like reuse footage because obviously this wasn't live. This was like taped. And when the Impact Zone would be lesser or more full, they'd obviously go back to footage where it was more full. So I wasn't at the pay-per-view, but I am in the video package.
They're such carnies.
It worked. It genuinely worked. And I mean, the Impact Zone had a great vibe. I think I've talked about this before. I actually started in the wrestling media about a couple of weeks after this because I was talking on a local Dublin show about the Impact Zone, and that's how I kind of got into the wrestling media. So I started in 2007. So, it's kind of funny. This show actually, or this run up the show actually got me into wrestling media. So there you go, guys. And
Brings you back.
it brings you back. But what was funny about it is like you'd go into the Impact Zone, and Don West would be sitting there trying to sell you things, and it's the most carny thing in the world. Like it really was. He'd be sitting there with like, "Here, buy a bag, buy a special bag with all the stuff in it." You're like, "Oh, hey Don." He's like, "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's $10." And you're like, it was just like brilliant. I've never had that atmosphere before, except when I went to the Glasgow show. Like, man, this is just like the Impact Zone, you know?
It does, like, there's a tremendous atmosphere. Actually, I didn't even check. What's the
900.
900.
900.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like those people make more noise than your average Raw.
Well, see, it's funny, right? So the pay-per-views, they weren't always paid. Like you didn't actually have to pay to go to Impact Zone for tapings. They just like ride around Universal Studios and kind of grab people on the way out. Or you didn't even have to go into Universal Studios. You could just show up and walk in. You'd line up outside and they bring you in. You may or may not have to pay. You may or not have to have paid for the pay-per-views. I'm not sure on that. But the fans that went to the pay-per-views were actual fans. The ones that were in it were at Impact were just, a lot of them were fans. Some of them were just wanted to get out of the heat, and we're just like, yeah, sure, we'll go to watch The Rock. You know,
people who'd come off Splash Mountain and were kind of dizzy and didn't know.
Well, no, it wouldn't be a Disney show. It wouldn't be a Disney ride. It would be something like Men in Black or the Simpsons ride or something like that was in Universal. So like when you'd watch Impact, like they'd have like random Minions merch or something, and you're like, what? This is so weird, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's beside the Bloom where Nickelodeon and the Blue Man Group were. So it's in City Walk. I don't know if you've ever been to Orlando, but like Universal have two parks, and one's like a Marvel park and Dr. Zeus and all that kind of stuff, and it's awesome. And then Universal Studios does like the movies, but they have it's where the Harry Potter stuff is now as well.
Well, here, Dara, as a kind of a business insider, let me ask you this: so TNA would, like for pay-per-views, sometimes you'd buy tickets, sometimes you didn't. But that's not unique to TNA. In fact, for most pay-per-views, for all companies, they'll sell as many tickets as they can, obviously. But when it comes to the day, they'll comp loads of people just to get
people in,
people in the building, right?
Yeah.
So if there's anyone listening who wants like a guide on how to get comped, what do you do? Do you hang around outside the venue and wait for it to start? How do you get your hands on these bloody free tickets?
Well, look, I mean, how this specifically worked was, again, I don't know how it works today. Obviously TNA aren't running shows from the Impact Zone anymore, but how they used to do it was you would just show up and just let you in. That's how it worked. But if you're what was funny is you'd be in the park and then you just see people with a bus just coming in and like busting people out of the park into it. So like that, to me, that's more weird, where you're just like you're getting on like the Hulk and some lads like, get on my bus, and then bust you into this wrestling place. But like when you were, cause obviously you'd buy your ticket to go in, and then but what happened with me and my dad is I was like 17, I wasn't even 18 at this point, and we just queued up outside. And I mean, the wrestling fans that I met outside were like hardcore TNA fans. They were like real fans. So there's about 400, 500 people outside, and they would be like the rabid fans. And then randomers would be like, yeah, I like The Rock. They wouldn't know what's going on.
They'd be like, you never know. He might show up.
He might show up. Like, I mean, Sting was wrestling when I was there. That was class. He was in a ladder match, and it was awesome. I got to see Raven, and I just lost my mind because he was in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match.
Oh,
Sorry.
Nice.
Oh, man, I had the 17-year-old me. It was one of the best things that ever happened was the Impact Zone. And it's one of the main reasons why I've just been a massive TNA fan for my whole life since then, because it's just the best company ever.
So for people listening who are wondering how you get these comp tickets, apparently it's nothing to do with you don't really follow WWE or AEW, whatever. What you do is you go on social media sites and websites and you follow the arena, And what the
Oh,
arena will do is,
and
and
this is modern. So this is like
this is now.
this is now. Okay, go on.
Yeah, what the arena will do is the arena will advertise for seat fillers, and you'd
No
be brought
way.
in, and
Stop.
you'd be given specific seats to sit in. You know, and obviously you have to stay there for a certain amount of time, and they can move you around if the camera's going to have a different focus on that. But yeah, apparently you just follow arenas on social media and sign up to them, and they will put out calls for seat fillers. There you go.
Well, I wasn't aware this was a thing. I think that's actually gas.
That's
But
deadly.
hey, that's unreal. I mean, look, Ireland's quite small. Obviously, we're an Irish podcast. But what you could do, like, have you ever seen an episode of Simpsons where they're trying to save every penny, and then they end up going to Tokyo by you can save money if you don't care where you go. So if you just like hang out at an arena and just wait, you could probably see any show you wanted to. But you'd probably have to fly and just hang out at the arena for like a week or two, and just be like, quick, like the Beastie Boys are playing. I need a free ticket, but then you can end up like watching something random. So I mean, if you live beside an arena, folks, you can be a sea filler for anything.
If because if you're local, yeah, you probably do get loads of comps and that. I think a better example, or not necessarily a better example, just a different one, because I love talking about this show. In Black Books, they say, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's the greatest sitcom ever.
Nah, that's a good point. Yeah, it is.
They decide to go on holidays, and they set off to Santonaray, and they get tickets for £12 to Santonaray. So their holiday to Santonaray is for 2 weeks, and they spend 13 days on airplanes and in airports getting to Santonaray because the tickets were so cheap.
I mean, genuinely, yeah. Like, not to derail this too much, but when I was coming back from the States, tickets were €1,000 cheaper. Sorry, were €1,000 more expensive, but it would have been a direct flight. Instead, we saved €1,000 and ended up with a 9-hour layover in Manchester.
There you go.
I would have rather spent the money, to be honest with you. But
No,
if I had
you telling me you could kill 9 hours in Manchester?
No, I realized later on, if I had paid €40, I could have got into the lounge, and the lounge actually would have been like grand to spend 9 hours in. So
Once you got off the plane in Manchester, you probably just could have got a flight from Manchester to Dublin for €40.
and now, Martin, you know why at All In I was passing out in the Uber because of that. So I'm passing out on the tube, which was so much worse. Randomly passing out on the tube is not what you want to do.
But also, because of that, you were home in your bed and asleep while I was trying to find a bloody airport outside of Luton
That's true.
to spend 4 bloody days in.
That's also true. Yeah. Oh man. So
Anyway,
back in 2000s.
yeah, never mind. 2023, 2007.
2007.
I was young. I had a full head of hair. I was fit. I was in university. God damn it, Dara. I was borderline happy.
I was not in university yet. I had just finished the Leaving Cert. I had a 6-pack because I was training Taekwondo religiously. And I was discovered Impact a couple of years beforehand. And my luck just happened to be a family holiday after the Leaving Cert where they were taping Impact Wrestling.
God, everything was better in 2007.
Man, the peak was amazing of humanity is that time period. So, and we got some of the best wrestling you can possibly imagine because it wasn't WWE. If you remember correctly, WWE at this time was absolutely horrendous.
Just
it was so bad. I mean, we've talked about this at some point because, like, obviously we talked about Cyber Sunday and all that kind of stuff, and we got a nice vertical slice of how bad that show was around this time. Actually, it's funny. For last year, everybody, thanks to Spotify Wraps, we know that our most popular show last year was, for some reason, Cyber Sunday 2007. So thank you, folks. You're a weird audience, but we love you.
You're not a bunch of You're not a bunch of masochists.
You're not a bunch. I never would have thought that show was the one that you all loved, but there you go.
To be fair, the show, as in Cyber Sunday, was terrible, but the show, the Wrestling Rewind about Cyber Sunday, that was pretty funny. We had a good laugh about.
Ah, well, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, we always try, but yeah. So the product was really bad in WWE at this point. So like this was like peak TNA. TNA had like established itself. It had its best run in 2005. Like TNA's best run, honestly, is 2005 to 2007, and then around 2008 it starts kind of petering off and declines significantly. So this is the last great TNA pay-per-view that like is pure TNA. It's before Kurt Angle really kind of went weird. You know, he was still having these phenomenal matches. This was one of his first feuds with Joe. They were really cooking all cylinders here. It was pure TNA. But it does kind of mark a very clear point in the company's history.
Is this TNA's X7?
Kind of, yeah. Like, I mean, some people will say, look, we will talk about Unbreakable as well, because that's like the big one that everybody goes back to. But this is kind of like, yeah, it is like, if I was to underscore a line, this would be it. This is like, right, this is when we start seeing a marked decline in the product, but also a massive growth in it. So it's funny, after this, that they get a lot bigger, but the quality dips significantly. For many different, like, another way you're saying, there's some stuff you like and there's some stuff that's just kind of weird. The weird stuff takes over, and then the bad stuff kind of really starts taking hold at this point. Like, you know, you go from having Kurt Angle and Joe in the main event to like a drugged up Jeff Hardy, you know.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, and that's not even the worst thing that happens. Hulk Hogan's in the main event with Ric Flair, like, you know what I mean? It loses its identity. TNA at this point is at its most pure core, which is, you know, in 2024 is what they're actually trying to get back to, and this is when they start letting it go.
Oh,
yeah, but
right.
But it's a great show. So with that being said, we started off the night. Again, your commentary team is the phenomenal Mike Tenay
Tremendous.
and Don West. You know what? Even though I love JR and the King, and JR and Paul Heyman would actually be my favorite commentary team, Mike Tenay and Don West are a very, 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 very close second.
They're terrific. Yeah,
they're just so good. Like, look, yeah,
and people like, they talk about a wrestling show, they talk about wrestlers, talk about matches, talk about the promos. I don't think people fully realize how much commentary, like, not even ads, like, really is part of the show, like a fundamental part of the show. So yeah, like the commentary team, man, is just, it's phenomenal. You're spot on. It does actually make the show. And the thing about it is, it's like when people are talking about TNA, they're like, oh, the 6-sided ring, and it's like, yeah, that was part of it. But when you're watching the show, like, and I'm not, you know, folks at home, don't be cynical going, yeah, there's TNA logos on the bar. It's like, yeah, I get it. It was broadcast in a weird time, but the actual show itself, the entrance ramps with the heel and face, little tubes, and just the way the show looks, it's like, yeah, this is its own thing, and it's its own thing in very much the way AEW is its own thing. When you're watching AEW, you know you're watching AEW, and yeah. TNA really had this down to a T. Like, when you have a juggernaut the size of WWE that had a monopoly for so long and spent that monopoly literally changing the term from wrestling to WWE. Like, they literally changed what people used to call wrestling to now people used to just say, oh, is it like WWE? Like, you can't fight that. The only way you can succeed when the market leader has that much of a monopoly is to be different. And TNA was that. And even though, like, a lot of wrestlers didn't like the 6-sided ring, I mean, you have to say that, like, the fact that so many people remember that as a defining sort of symbol of TNA shows that it had the desired effect and that it separated them.
It did, and like, it allowed them kind of be their own thing. Like, when you're watching the show, it doesn't look like a show from 2007, or I mean, or in another word, it does look like a show from 2007, but doesn't look like WWE, because it's kind of like, you know, it still has the smoke in the arena from the pyro. it's kind of like an almost a throwback to 1999 WWE.
Yeah. In fact, there's a kind of a lesson here for AEW in that I mean, their attendance has been doing better of late. They're averaging around 5,000, but they're averaging around 5,000 in kind of 15,000 seater arenas, which is grand when you black out the upper decks and all that. But like, imagine what those 5,000 people would sound like in a 5,000 seater arena.
But here's the thing: if I was, and I don't want to labor this point too much because you are spot on. If I was AEW, I would buy somewhere, right? Make it the Dynamite Den or the Rampage.
Rampart.
Yeah, something like that.
You couldn't call it the Dynamite Den because Irish fans would just associate that forever with Zig and Zag and Dustin the Turkey.
Well, look, I don't know, or the Collision Coliseum. There you go, that's a good one. And then just kind of have that filled with like the rabid fans, and it could be like a pilgrimage for people to go to. Because I mean, that's what the Impact Zone was. It was a pilgrimage for people to go to. And it's kind of like what NXT does as well in the Performance Center. That would make a lot more sense, and then they can kind of just focus on being their own thing.
I think for AEW, I think they have to keep touring.
Maybe definitely tour. They'll definitely tour, but center yourself somewhere like that and have these, and then kind of get used to working in the smaller arenas. Because the thing about it is,
do you know what I definitely do? I definitely get an arena for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, that's fair. That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
But I think Dynamite and Collision need to keep touring. And like, look, wrestling is cyclical. The numbers go up and down all the time. So like, book those 5,000 seat arenas. And look, maybe it's not possible. Maybe the set is too big for an arena that size. I don't know. But book those 5,000 or 8,000 seat arenas. And then if you're finding that the demand is too high, then move up to the. But sure, then again, look, but
here's the thing:
a touring show, so I don't know. Maybe you have to book this stuff a year out in advance.
But here's the thing: you didn't believe that there was only 1,000 people in this arena.
No, man, this crowd is amazing. Here's what wrestling fans need to be like. Wrestling fans need to stop thinking that they're part of the business and start remembering that they're part of the show.
Yeah. And that's actually a very good point.
Yeah, stop tweeting about the goddamn numbers and the viewership and the quarterly returns and all that crap, and start screaming your head off when you're in the show, when you're at the arena. Scream for the guys you like, boo the guys you hate, clap for the brilliant moves. Like we were talking earlier about how the commentary is part of the show. The crowd is a part of the show, and this crowd is, for 900 people, phenomenal.
It is. And it's one of the things that, even when I was at TNA there this year, I lost my voice for like a week. Like a full week, because of how rabid the TNA crowd actually is. Because the thing of it is, like, they actually love the crowd. It's not like, a WWE thing where it's a show about a show. The show really is the whole presentation. It's the TNA as an experience, and that's what you get here, and you really kind of capture it, and you get it in the, as I said, those lads that showed up every week or every couple of days for the TNA tapings, they were there every day. They were there all the time. You got the random people who are wearing the Universal Studios merch, but whatever, you can have both.
I'll tell you what, in terms of getting an engaged audience and getting people to be loud, you could not ask for a better opener than an X Division
triple threat match.
Triple threat tag team
match. Absolutely. So, this is like, I think I've said this before when we were talking about some AEW shows, opening up your show with the X Division or a bunch of light heavyweights or a bunch of.
When we used to talk about the WCW shows.
Exactly.
The whole show would be a snooze fest, but the opener was always amazing.
It was absolute fire. And I mean, here's the thing: when you have the guns, the Motor City Machine Guns, they're the greatest tag team of all time. I'm sorry, There is no debate on this. There just isn't. They're the greatest tag team of all time and still are.
For the preservation of our friendship, I won't object.
That is fair. That you will not win. You genuinely will not win. And it's like they just proved why. I mean, when I saw them this year, I was transported right back to the Impact Zone, watching these lads kill it, and we got to watch it again. And not only that, not only did you get the guns, you got Christopher Daniels and Senshi, also known as Loki, also known as No Job Key, after his WWE run, and Jay Lethal Sunday Dud.
Not only that, not Jay Lethal, Black Machismo.
Yes, the best impression of
how has he not brought that out in AEW yet?
Well, I mean, it's because he did it for a long time. And have you seen his Ric Flair impression?
Oh my God, that's amazing! That promo where him and Ric Flair have a woo off is
phenomenal.
Incredible.
That's my line. That's my line. Yeah. So I mean,
woo, woo.
But see, this is like just phenomenal TNA range here that you get straight from the get-go. It's a fast-paced match. There's a lot going on. The six-sided ring, it looks like it was hell to work in. It really does. But it adds that kind of totally different presentation, because when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, I'm not watching anything else. We are watching a different fast-paced style of wrestling that people haven't seen genuinely at this point since WCW, even though Ring of Honor had kind of started 2 or 3 years beforehand, but it wasn't cooking yet. I mean, like, Punk was working there with Raven around this time, but it wasn't like the Ring of Honor that people knew just yet.
Like, we'd be here all night if we went like move for move, like with this match alone.
I don't even know how you could. It's just hold after hold, change, flips, everything. Just
unbelievable. This is why I never made it as a wrestler, because I could go in, I could do the moves, and I could take the bumps, and I could do the promos. But see, when it came to remembering in order what I was supposed to do, as soon as the bell rang, my mind went blank. And that's when I was doing like really basic curtain openers, or curtain jerking matches 1-on-1. Like, these guys, the finishing sequence of this match was insane. But to pick out one spot, because I kind of want to ask you about it as the TNA guy.
Go on.
There's a brilliant moment in it where can't remember your man's name, but he hops up on the rope and he does like a kind of a run across the rope, like jumps over the turnbuckle and catches the guy on the other side of the turnbuckle in a Hurricane Rana to the outside of the ring. Sensational spot, but it reminded me of the really famous TNA cage.
Off the cage,
spot.
Yeah.
Was that the same guy?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
So they had multiple people capable of this.
Yeah, I can't. He's a very famous TNA guy. The name escapes me, but it wasn't him. It was a different guy. Right. This was just the X. This was just the X Division guys. This is what that division was made up of. And then a lot of the X Division guys would also be in the tag team. So when you were watching any division in TNA, you were getting top quality. And unfortunately, though, the main event, it would suffer from WCW, because guess what? TNA didn't learn from the lessons of WCW. And yeah, it would kind of these guys wouldn't be in a main event until many years later, and now they are the main event. Like, you're watching the ring here. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley are your current TNA World and X Division champions.
Yeah. The other thing I loved about this match was it kind of had everything TNA. So it had terrific wrestlers doing just insane moves. It had great in-ring action, but it also had TNA nonsense, because this was a tag team match, and the winner of the tag team match got a shot at a singles title.
But remember, the tag team belts were defended in a singles match.
In a singles. We're going to get to that.
We'll get to that. But the finishing sequence of this was class. I'll be honest with you, I forgot Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt were the winners here. They were definitely the underdogs in this, because I mean, I thought everybody was expecting the Guns to win, But Lethal and Dud were actually a phenomenally good tag team, to be fair.
Oh.
But they definitely were the ones that nobody saw winning. But it was a very quick roll-up victory. So, I mean, that's why they kind of stalled it. So
Terrific. And Sanjay Dutt now is like just a kind of a heel manager in AEW. So,
and Christopher Daniels was banned from Collision by Punk because he's the head of talent relations in AEW.
But Sanjay Dutt plays like a kind of a, like sneaky, cowardly heel manager. So I'd never really seen him in the ring. So
Really?
going back watching these TNA shows, he's actually a brilliant wrestler.
Brilliant. Yeah. That blows my mind, dude, actually.
There you go.
As well. So the next match was Raven and Kaz. Now, Kaz is still wrestling in Impact. He's phenomenal. He pulled like triple duty in Glasgow. And Raven's out here with his pair of floozies known as Serotonin, Havoc and Martyr. And believe
so
it or
bad.
not, you know who Havoc is?
Who?
Johnny Devine.
No.
He is, yeah.
Any word on who Martyr is?
So Martyr is Michael Shane, later changed his name to Matty Benlett. So he was trained by his cousin Shawn Michaels.
What?
Yeah, he's trained by Shawn Michaels. But obviously Johnny Devine would be a bit more famous in the end. But this was a part. So okay, Punk was in Raven's stable in TNA, Raven's flock, right? So Raven came over and still did the DCW thing for a while, right? And then Punk left. They broke up Raven's flock. Raven would kind of do it again as Serotonin. And Serotonin would be more like a Clockwork Orange kind of thing. He'd have a whole different set of floozies that would show up. Daphne would eventually be in it and all that kind of stuff. But this really, and Kaz was in it.
This pay-per-view, as good as it was, did some like this pay-per-view was never going to get full marks because it did suffer from not having double nipples pierced Punk on it. I can't watch TNA anymore without double nipples pierced Punk.
See, Punk was only in TNA for like literally a wet day.
Well, this is 2007. Like, as we know, Punk started his career in ECW in 2006, according to the recently released WWE documentary.
So the gimmick here was that Kaz was part of Raven's, part of Serotonin, and he left. He was like NWO blooded out. And this is them trying to patch things up and start Frankie Kazarian or Kaz start his rise to the ascent of the upper tier of TNA. So this is just a singles match, not a hardcore match. So you would be led to believe that it was a hardcore match because there's many multi-man moves. It starts on kendo sticks. But when the bell rings, it's 6 minutes and it's just a singles match with Kazarian winning. But unfortunately, as much as I like this, because I love Raven, he's one of my favorite wrestlers, like always was, even as a kid. Even when he was, bringing shopping carts down to the ring in WWE, I marked some fierce for it. This was not like an important match. It was just furthering on the storyline that had started in the Impact beforehand, which was a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match.
Kaz had some phenomenal moves in this match. He did a brilliant at the start. During the brawl part, an incredible double clothesline.
Yes.
Where he took himself and Raven and one of the Serotonin ladies, floozies, over the top rope. It was amazing, and did a rope hurricane combo that was also incredible.
Did you notice that? Well, you probably didn't notice, but Martyr actually does a Shawn Michaels super kick.
Oh,
point. And now it makes a lot more sense because his cousin is literally Shawn Michaels or Michael Hiddenbottom.
Is he Michael?
Michael, yeah, Michael Hickenbottom.
Yeah.
I'm going to see you at the Alamo. Do you not remember that segment?
Yeah, but he says Hickenbottom.
I said Michael Hickenbottom. Michael Hickenbottom.
Oh, does he?
Paul Levesque.
Well, we're going to talk about those lads in a couple
Oh,
of
we
matches.
will. We absolutely will. God, I love
yeah,
TNA.
What
The best company in the world.
what got me with this was the finish was weirdly terrible. It was just kind of a
it was
weird kick. And the other thing that got me with this was, it's. Do you know when you see a wrestler you love, and they're obviously done?
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
I was watching this going, man, even in 2007, Raven was done. Like,
he was, Yeah,
done.
like Raven's last great year was 2003 to 2005 when he had the world title. And what they were trying to do here, they were trying to pass the torch over to Serotonin.
Yeah,
and Kaz.
because he doesn't even do a whole pile in this match.
No, he can't. I mean, he's finished when he's in the ring. Like when that bell rings, he's like, oh, thank Christ, you know. But they were trying to, and like even in the Doomsday the Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, that wasn't a Raven match. These were just crutches to get people over, and he got Kaz over. I mean, Kaz would become one of the biggest stars in the company to this day, and it's because of this feud and other feuds with guys. But Raven definitely was very much done. But you know what a counterpoint to this is? The next match, where we have Rhino and James Storm.
Rhino, who I didn't know was a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah, and he not only is
that a TNA storyline, or is that a real life?
Well, there's probably a bit true to it, but definitely was like at one point he like takes a whole keg of beer and just swills it. So
I hope it's fake booze. If it's a real life, if it's like a Scott Hall thing, I hope it's fake.
I don't know. I look, it's
at least like Carlsberg Zero or something.
I don't know, but it was a weird spot. It was this would predate the CM Punk Chris Jericho thing, but it definitely was like trying to make it more personal. Rhino's tenure with TNA is still happening because he's still wrestling for TNA, which is amazing. God. I got to see him wrestle. I was so happy. I popped so hard for Rhino. People were like, "What is wrong with this guy?" I'm like, "Rhino's the best. How dare you?"
Well, I'll say this: best spear in the business.
It's not called a spear.
Well,
gore.
Best tackle takedown in the business.
Yeah, no, absolutely is. The gore is just phenomenal. But this match itself, like, it's a barroom brawl, right? And not like a WWE one where it would be in a actual bar room, which, you know, I mean, that has its place. They just fill it with like junk and have like a random doll pretending to be at the bar.
They have so it's a barroom brawl, but it's just the TNA ring. But outside the TNA ring, like at the end of the ramp, they've set up a bar. And I know our listeners can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm making inverted commas with my fingers because it's a table with a
mannequin.
With a black apron over it.
Yes.
And a mannequin, weirdly.
Yeah, I thought it was a person, but no, it's just a really weird mannequin.
Hannah came in. So my girlfriend Hannah came in while I was watching this, and she said, "Why is there a corpse at the bar?" The mannequin is so weirdly colored. It's not colored like a mannequin. It looks like a rotting corpse.
It does, yeah. I was like, well, maybe because it's, and then I was thinking, maybe because it's so close to Halloween. I'm like, wait, no, this is August.
So they have this table set up as the bar, right? And do you know what? It's actually it's not terrible because they smash up the table and they have a spot where they break through a bit of a wall, and like the whole thing does have a really cool kind of a vibe of like anarchy to it. You know, there's and I think the camera work as well kind of pays into it because it's not like, and they've kind of gone back to this with current TNA. It's not like the big TV camera. Like they use the TV camera as well, but they're really good at like using kind of like the guerrilla cam where it's like, you know, guerrilla journalism where it's like it's a free, like they have the obviously hard camera and you have like the other big camera, but they have this other like weirdly mini cam
where they
Yeah.
can follow the action, and it's really, really cool. Like
This match really benefits from that because it adds to the kind of
chaotic.
wild, unhinged, chaotic nature of it. But
It's a great hardcore match, and Rhino's always been really good. Like one of the best hardcore matches you can watch is from 2001 Backlash with Rhino and Raven. But Rhino's been gifted with these matches where he can just do this, like these enjoyable garbage matches that are just so fun. Also, Jacqueline is randomly in this, and she's known as Jackie Moore, but it's Jacqueline from WWE. So
in her what is it? Southern States rebel hat.
yeah, she's wearing the what's it, the Confederate flag hat?
Confederate.
Which is like, okay, fair enough. I mean,
enough.
I think she is from Texas.
Oh well, there you go.
She is from Texas.
what got me with this was though, so they've got the bar, they smash everything up. There's kegs of beer being thrown around and smashed.
And he takes a big swill out of one. It's like, oh my god, Rhino.
Cute. Oh,
No.
not even that. At one stage, Rhino, who in storyline is a recovering alcoholic,
Yes.
whips open a bottle of vodka and downs it.
Oh, that's
Like,
yeah, he does. Yeah, I don't think that was real though.
You'd hope not. And the crowd pops like mad. Yay! Relapse! Woo! Crowd goes mad. But what really
Relapse. Woo. That should be a shirt.
what really got me was they smash the bar and they smash the mannequin and they smash the wall, and then they wrestle around for a bit, and then they get back round to the front, and for some reason there's a toilet.
I was going to bring that up. That is that for me. That's the weirdest part of the match.
And it's just sitting there. It's not connected.
Although it's really funny because at one point, like Rhino buries Cowboy James Thorne's head into it, and then he just sits on it.
But it's not connected to any plumbing. There's no
No.
water in it. Why are you burying his head in it? And the commentary, as great as they are, keep going, he's giving him a swirly. And I'm like, the name swirly comes from the swirling of the water. And this is a toilet. It's not connected to any plumbing. There's no swirling. This is just getting his head pushed up against some ceramic.
You know the sad part about this though, and it's a sad part about Rhino's tenure in TNA. Rhino loses a lot in TNA. He's the ultimate Bukali.
Yeah.
He really is. And I mean, it's awful because he loses all the time, and he loses in this match, and it's devastating.
And he's battering him from pillar to post.
Yeah, but then randomly a beer bottle does it, like puts him away, and you're watching at the end of this match, and the ring is destroyed, and you're like, how did a beer bottle do this when you've basically battered him around the place with every single thing you can possibly think of, including an unhooked up toilet?
There is one thing just to prove that Rhino does the best spear / gore in the business. He sets a table up against the turnbuckle.
Yes.
And throws not throws, but puts Storm up against it, and then charges with the gore. And when Storm moves, I mean, that table is obliterated. Like, it explodes into matchwood.
Well, here's the thing. Rhino literally destroyed a SmackDown set with the gore. No one's ever done that. So, I mean, like, it's just, there are a few things in wrestling that you can set your watch by, and Rhino's gore is one of them.
He also takes a really nasty, so they set up a ladder outside the ring where the ladder is set up against the railing, and then
I really enjoyed your woman's overreaction to the fact that there was a ladder coming there, and she's like, "Oh my god, I need to move!" She was freaking out, shouting at them. I thought that was very entertaining.
Yeah, imagine she saw the toilet.
Well, no, she was probably in the park, and she goes, "Oh, get out of the heat." And she goes, "What? There's a ladder coming near me. Two sweaty lads."
So they set up a ladder, one end of it against the railing, and one end of it propped up on the ring. And Rhino, he doesn't even get thrown, like he's running at Storm, and Storm moves, and he does like a massive bump over the top, but the bloody ladder slips. So rather than the ladder breaking his fall. The ladder slips off the ring and he just falls the whole way down and then lands on it. Oh, it looks like the sickest bump. Oh. But overall, like in terms of like just a carnage brawl, properly enjoyed this.
It's very good. So the next, so obviously so far we have kind of a mixed bag. Kaz beat Raven, James Storm beat Rhino. So it's not too heel heavy, it's not too face heavy. It's kind of balanced. The next match is a tag team match with LAX, the Latin American Exchange, Homicide and Hernandez defeated the Voodoo Kin Mafia. Now, look, I don't know if you know LAX, but LAX are...
I do. They're proud and powerful, aren't they?
Yeah, but like, I don't know if... Like, they are like a TNA main...
Oh, yeah,
They're super over, crazy good tag team. Some of the best moments of TNA have done by LAX. Huge fan, just class, right? Hernandez, not so much. They tried to make him a single star and it didn't work out that well. But Voodoo Kin Mafia might look familiar to long-term listeners because it is none other than former number one contender who went one-on-one with the Great One at the peak of the Attitude Era. It was 3 seconds. It was 3 seconds away.
3 seconds.
3 seconds. That's
1,
all.
2, 3. That's it.
That's
Would have
it.
been the world champion.
And not only was it on Raw, but it was against The Rock, one-on-one with the Great One.
At the peak of his powers.
It was the Road Dogg himself, the roadie, singer of With My Baby Tonight.
What was it? Gold record winning.
Absolutely. And not only, he wasn't the only number one contender, because we also had Mr. Ass himself.
He's an ass man.
He is. He likes to watch them, and he's going to kick them.
Loves to suck them, loves to lick them.
So yeah, and there are of course VKM, Voodoo Kin Mafia. And did you notice that those 3 letters make up
What?
Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
The initials of who?
Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
No.
Yeah, telling you.
Do you know what? I did know that because it's hilariously stupid. What I don't understand is Road Dogg and Billy Gunn's names.
So hold on 1 second. We are going to take a break for our listeners here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, and we're going to come back in overtime because you're going to be able to give your unfiltered feelings towards Miss Brooke. So don't worry.
You're going to hear some salacious language, folks.
So, folks, if you want the full podcast, and look, we appreciate you listening to us on Phoenix FM, we really do. But sometimes we say things that we can't say on the radio for many reasons, and I will have to cut them out or censor them. That's not the case on the podcast, and it makes James very uncomfortable, which is very funny for us. So,
but he's too nice to say it.
He's too nice to say it, but God bless him. So if you want the full uncut podcast, you can either go to Nerd to Know Media, thewrestlingrewind.com, or of course over to the True Penny channel on Spotify, on SoundCloud, and you will be able to get all the shows there. I think True Penny channel is just SoundCloud, but you can get us on Spotify. The Wrestling Rewind, you can take us there, and it's Nerd to Know Media as well. We will be back next week. We don't know what we're talking about, probably in your house again. But we're going to continue.
Don't say it with such sorrow. It's going to get good soon, Dara, I promise.
I love that optimism. I really do. But we're going to continue this discussion on the podcast. So if this is your first time checking this out, thank you so much. But go over to Nerd to Know Media, go over to thewrestlingrewind.com and start listening, because we're going to do more of this. We're only getting started here on Hard Justice, 2007. From the Impact Zone. We'll talk to you after this short break or next week on Phoenix 92.5 FM.
I love to pick 'em, and I'm gonna kick 'em, 'cause I'm a last man. Yeah,
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media radio network.
All right, and we're back here on the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darragh O'Connor. We are halfway through Hard Justice 2007. Martin, VKM. Continue.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon. A subtle dig. Only the most Sherlockian amongst us would have worked that one out.
A Machiavellian scheme of intrigue.
Absolute. Just what I love about is the nuance and the subtlety.
The subtlety. About as subtle as a hammer to the face.
Subtle as a suicide bomber. But here's what I don't get. Perhaps you, as the resident TNA expert, can explain this to me. So Billy Gunn and Road Dogg are now called BG James, as in Billy Gunn James, and Kip James.
Yes.
Are they brothers? Are they?
So,
are they married? I know Billy Gunn had that thing where he got involved in a gay marriage in WWE.
So,
has Road Dogg taken on his surname?
So BG James, Brian Gerard James is the Road Dogg's actual name.
Oh, BG is
his actual name.
Road Dogg.
Yeah,
not
Road
Billy
Dogg.
Gunn.
No. Kip James, right?
So Road Dogg's initials are BG, and Billy Gunn's initials are Kip.
Yeah. So Monty Kip Scop, right, is actually Billy Gunn's real. No, that's his real name.
So that's what you say when you're skipping on the squares that children draw on the ground with chalk.
So
skip hop.
So Monty Kip Sop, right, is his name. So it seems like BG James, they're just like, okay, we're just going to do that, right? And it kind of works. And Kip was like, okay, I guess I'll take your name.
Okay. So are they...
I still don't have an answer. I don't know.
Are they, let's say they're not married, they're not brothers. No. Are they maybe cousins or just two people who just happen to have the same surname?
Hold on a second. So I'm going to read you a list of his ring names, okay?
But whose?
Billy Gunn, right?
Billy Gunn's all right.
Badass Billy Gunn, Billy G, Billy Gunn, Q-Kip, Daddy Ass, Kip Gunn, Kip James, Kip Montana, Kip Scop, Kip Winchester, Mr. Ass, the G-Man, the New Age Outlaw, the One Billy Gunn, the Outlaw Rockabilly. Listen, this man just has the weirdest collection of ring names. And Did
you get Daddy Ass on that?
Yeah, Daddy Ass is there.
Well then, Darragh, as the resident TNA expert, if you have no answer, then I don't.
I really don't.
What I will say about this match is that firstly, Kip's gear just
actually hold on. You know what I think hilarious. It is? I think it's because they refer to themselves as the James Gang.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what it is, but they never really gave a definitive answer. But yeah, Kip's gear is definitely something.
Do you know what? It's some we can't adequately do it on a podcast, folks. You just got it. Just somewhere between like a cowboy's assless chaps and a woman's whale tail thong. If you could put those two things together and then put them on a 6'10" man, that's what you got.
But he has a little smiley face on the crotch, and he's wearing a little headband.
Yeah, obviously you got a smiley face on the crotch.
Is it like? I don't know. I mean, the actual man who portrays that list of characters is married to a woman with kids. One of those kids are in AEW.
Two of them. Oh no. Oh.
Is it not the most surprising thing in the world?
That.
Yeah.
He was in a monogamous relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, even I mean, in terms of monogamy, even Val Venus had a monogamous relationship with Ken Shamrock's sister/wife. You know, like
no, Ken Shamrock had a monogamous relationship with his sister/wife.
No, but Val Venus went out with her for a while.
In storyline.
Yeah, you know.
I'm talking about reality.
Well, I don't know. This is TNA. You know what's real, what's
That's
fake.
fair.
Who knows?
That's fair. Well, here. So this is your first time watching TNA's version of the New Age Outlaws.
Yes.
What did you think of it? Because I mean, it's a very different, obviously a different presentation because they're not coming out and they're not really over, but they kind of are.
Well,
So what did you think? Because I mean, this is a complete culture clash for you.
what I thought of it was, I didn't really have time to form my own view of it because the crowd pipes in pretty quickly with their own view of it. So whenever
Their own view of it.
yeah, because whenever like BG and Kip are doing like the suck it, you know, or any of their old basically New Age Outlaws slogans or moves or anything, the crowd is roaring same old shit and DX rejects over and over again. Like, so this happens a couple of times during the night. Like, this crowd is rabidly anti WWE. Like, they do not want, like, they're more than happy for wrestlers to come in, but they do not want them coming in doing their WWE shtick. Like, they are fully opposed to this. I mean, if you're going to look at it as a match itself, it's fine. LAX are obviously excellent. Road Dogg is obviously terrible. Billy Gunn is somewhere in between. It all comes together for an okay match, but it ends when
a screwy finish.
Well, yeah, but it's such a weird screwy finish. So Roxy Laveau, is it? Is that how it's pronounced?
Laveau, yeah.
Yeah, Roxy Laveau pops in.
Levesque.
And fires powder in the eyes of
Coca the Cane.
Of Coke of the Cane into the eyes of which you'd think like
and you know who comes out? Hector Guerrero.
Yeah, but you think if someone threw cocaine in your eyes during the match, that would only spark you up. You wouldn't lay down for a 3 count. You'd crawl out of your own skin and beat them to death with your own skeleton. But so there's a screwy finish. They throw powder in his eyes, but then Hector comes out and he gets the referee and he runs over and he points at the powder and he says, "Look, there's powder on the ground.
There's Coke of the Cane."
There's Coke of the Cane, and the referee goes, "Oh my God! Well, we better restart this match." So TNA has called into question every missed finish. You know, and like the referee didn't see a spitting mist in their face, but the referee turned around for a second and turned back, and now their face is blue, and he just like counts it as if that's fine. Or every time Jeff Jarrett, like the referee turned around and he didn't see Jeff Jarrett hit them with a guitar, but then he turns back a second later and the ring is littered with bits of guitar.
Like, my hand hurts. Why? Oh, there's a bit of guitar there.
This calls into question every screwy. Like, if you can run into the ring and point at debris, like, and get the match restarted.
The thing about it is Hector Guerrero was an authority figure at this point. And then he'd become a commentator, so he wasn't just like some rando.
Well, then we need to get Hector into modern day organizations to
absolutely to call out the nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, we have. Wait, sorry, the nonsense. Yeah, okay. There's kind of nonsense. The next 2 matches are kind of nonsense.
Oh, but so after the match is restarted, by the way, LAX win with a quick roll up.
Yes. So the next 2 matches were kind of like proper prime TNA nonsense. One is Bobby Roode with Miss Brooks defeating Eric Young in a humiliation match. Now, they're not very clear on what a humiliation match is, but it's very similar to the idea of, you know, what was it, the Crybaby match?
Oh, Dara, I literally have that written in my notes.
Do you?
I literally have it. Although, because I get like dropped on my head all the time, I couldn't think of the Crybaby match, and I literally have down here the baby nappy match. So that's my brain slowly deteriorating.
So it is very much the same kind of idea. But Gail Kim is heavily involved in this as well because she's obviously been like and still is a massive TNA figure in in not only the women's division but then would just in TNA in general. She would be like one of the heart and souls of TNA.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of involved in this as well with it's weird. Here's the third, right? So I remember Eric Young like this. So seeing serious Eric Young in WWE was bizarre. Seeing serious Eric Young now was bizarre because I'm like, I still remember Eric Young like this. So it's a bit kind of bizarre. But the end of this match kind of comes the humiliation.
Is Eric Young now is he the guy who wears the amateur wrestling headgear?
Yeah, him and Josh Alexander, yeah.
Well, I wish I'd made that connection when I was watching this because when he came out, he kind of looks like just kind of like a nothing mid-card babyface, boring mid-card babyface. But when I watch the match, he's actually brilliant in this match.
He's phenomenal, yeah.
And I wish I'd made the connection because even though I don't watch a lot of TNA now, when I do, I always look forward to his matches.
And the thing about Eric Young is as well, he's like now the heart and soul, like firmly. He's like the locker. He's the one who gave the speech at the end of the tapings of Glasgow. He's the locker room leader for reasons like he's been there for years. He has always been great but it's weird because you're watching him and you're like, oh, Eric Young, you're not serious, but he's always been great. So he's kind of found his way now. But what was weird about this match was even though Bobby Roode defeated Eric Young, the humiliation happened to Miss Brooks, which was the most TNA thing in the world. So you have a lot to say about Miss Brooks. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Yes. Yeah. No, like I don't want to labor on the point, but Miss Brooks comes out and she obviously knows her gimmick, and her gimmick is that she has massive tits. Just
so
huge.
True. Yeah,
just like not even like a lecherous 14-year-old going, oh, big boobs.
Not a Mark Madden.
Not about like comic
character Mark Madden. No, not the real man. The character from WWE.
Allegedly. I think he played that too convincingly. Like comically huge. And then she wears these clothes that like push them up to her chin. Like it looks like she has an arse nailed to her chest. It's mesmerizing, but not in a sexy or a pervy way. It's mesmerizing in like when people used to go to the circus and stare at the freak.
Stare at the freak.
Mesmerizing like that. It's like a human body's not supposed to look like that. That's ridiculous. I think at one stage, is it TNA calls her the flotation floozy.
See, floozy is a phenomenal word. I know James gets upset by it, but we're not using it to refer to women. I like to use it to refer to people that like the lads in
display the characteristics of a floozy.
Yeah, like the lads in Serotonin, they're genuinely floozies.
Well, look, if Bender and Futurama can get away with having floozies, surely me and you can get away with having floozies. Yeah, I mean,
and don't forget the most famous floozy was the floozy in the jacuzzi in Dublin for many years.
Dublin?
Yeah,
aren't we incredibly proud of her?
Absolutely. Now she has her own little place up near Houston Station, and it's great to see her.
The floozy in the jacuzzi was her WWE name. When she went to AEW, she became the whore in the sewer. Anyway, anyway, yeah. So, like Miss Brooks, if you want like sort of frame of reference, think Major Guns from WCW,
but bigger.
Just comically. Anyway, so that's enough. Like,
hold on. We can't let this pass. Mark Madden, have you got something to this? Sorry, WCW character Mark Madden. Have you got something to add to this? Thank you, character WCW Mark Madden.
Now back to you in the studio. Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to say about this match, and I completely agree with you. So Robert Roode and Miss Brooks win this match.
Yes.
But then, like you say, is it Gail Kim comes running in?
Gail Kim, yes.
And they beat up Robert Roode. They throw him out of the ring, and they do the humiliation, which is a Canadian tarring and feathering, which is instead of tarring somebody, you throw maple syrup all over them, and then you feather them.
Yeah.
So it's like the Crybaby match in that there's nothing from the company compelling you to submit to the consequences of losing the match. You know, there's nothing. There's nothing that says you've lost the match. 1, 2, 3, kid. Now you have to lay down while Razor Ramon puts a nappy on you. In this, there was nothing that says you have lost the match, Eric Young. So now you have to be tarred and feathered. They just throw him out of the ring, and they just tar and feather his missus, and that's that. It's not so much a stipulation. It's whoever's fit to do it to the other person at the end.
So we move on from that to what is absolutely the low point of the show, for many reasons.
Yeah.
So we have future WWE Hall of Famer, 3-disc box set, Braden Walker.
Box set.
Otherwise known by his TNA name, Chris Harris. Now remember, Chris Harris was part of America's Most Wanted with the Cowboy James Storm, which is one of the biggest teams in TNA history. And obviously the Cowboy...
Is that before or after this?
This is well before this. It's a long time before this. And then obviously Chris Harris would go off and become the Hall of Famer. 3-disc deluxe box set, Braden Walker. And you know, obviously James Storm would become James Storm with Beer Money and not with Beer Money, with you know, his runs. Oh no, it would be Beer Money with Beer Money, and then his run in WWE and NXT and all that kind of good stuff. And you know, Chris Harris would be Braden Walker. So this was his return to TNA after kind of being away for a while. And he pair him up with somebody else who returned to TNA, who's been away for a while under a new gimmick. Black Rain, who formerly Goldust, formerly Dustin Reynolds, formerly the artist known as Goldust, currently known
formerly
as Dustin
Seven.
Reynolds, formerly Seven. And
For about 15 minutes.
But the sad part about this is this literally is like the return to Seven. WCW. This is when Dustin Rhodes was at his lowest, and it is quite sad. He's very heavily overweight. He's not healthy. He's been in a pretty bad point at this point, and the gimmick it's terrible.
It's awful.
Terrible. It's so bad. And it was bad then. It's sad now, but I mean, at least when you're watching now, you're not like, he had a career resurgence, and he's great now, and he's had some of the best matches of his whole career. Yeah. But what's weird about this is, like, both of these guys, this is like the downward spiral for both of these guys.
Yeah. So
and it's not a match. It's 4 minutes of him beating him with a stick.
Yeah, the match is like, I mean, if you take everything else out of it, the match is like a pretty convincing beatdown for this character. It's stupid that he loses, even if it's by so this is Black Rain's debut and he loses, even if it's by DQ. That's stupid. But
no, I mean, it makes sense. Like, he beats the ref, bloodies him up with the cane, and just batters him around the place.
Yeah, but he could have beat your man and then pinned him and then done the beatdown.
Yeah, but how else would then he get Spooky Cane with his knife cane in?
That's true. Although he does present his Spooky Cane with the spike in it, and then he proceeds to hit him with the blunt end that doesn't have the spike.
I prefer the term knife cane.
Knife cane. Well, he proceeds to hit him with the handle cane end rather than the knife cane end.
Yeah, because that's called murder.
But what I will say is that the beatdown itself, pretty convincing, like pretty vicious, and the image at the end of Chris Harris handcuffed to the ring ropes, absolutely pissing blood, is pretty cool. Everything else about this is dreadful.
It's really bad. It's
The
really
promos. So even the stuff that's not terrible is terrible. So like the promos that they show of Dustin Rhodes kind of becoming Black Rain, you know, the interview he does where he's all, I have this personality inside my head and I need to let it out. Like they're kind
I
of
hear voices in my head. They
Yeah.
call to me. They
they're kind of crappy, but they're wrestling crappy. So you could live with that. You'd be fine with that. But it's so animated and so loud and so wrestling that then Chris Harris is interviewed and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna wrestle this match, and gosh darn it, I'm gonna try and win this wrestling match and I'll be the best wrestler in this particular wrestling match." Oh my God, Chris, shut the fuck up.
But you see, this is why Chris Harris didn't do any talking, and James Storm did,
He's so boring.
because he's so boring.
He's
And
so-
which is even more incredible when you think about that 3-disc box set. Really, just has all the highlights.
And are two of those discs like blank so you can record whatever you want, or
Absolutely, you know, and you can fill in the blanks yourself, you know, from his TNA career.
And do you know what? It actually almost starts out good because Chris Harris comes out, and then the actual Black Rain entrance is really cool. It kind of starts with Chris Harris's music because his music ends, but it becomes distorted, which is
Yeah.
actually a really cool gimmick that your music wouldn't start separately. Your music would start as a distortion of the other guy's music. That's a class gimmick. Everything goes black. It's really cool. The entrance music is deadly, and then you just see this figure in the dark just walking down the ramp, and it's like, wow, maybe this Black Rain thing isn't as bad as I've been led to believe. You know, wrestling fans are awful, and they make things out to be a lot worse
They're
than
awful.
they are. We're terrible people. They make things out to be a lot worse than they are. You're looking at this going, God, maybe this is one of those things, because this looks pretty cool. And then the lights come up and you're like, oh no. Oh no.
Again, more lessons that weren't learned from WCW.
This is-
When Dustin Reynolds shows up around this time and it's not in WWE, be like, listen, man, you need to not do this. But you know, we saw
like
it
you
with
said,
7.
Yeah, this is during the absolute, not even the lowest point of his career, like the lowest point of his life.
Yeah,
He's severely overweight, and I
Yeah.
say that as a heavy man. He's severely overweight. He's carrying a rat in a cage that looks like it was bought out of the spirit store at Halloween.
he's carrying the rat.
He's
The
He's,
rat's the best part, though.
he's wearing, I don't know if it's like an homage to the Irish origins of Halloween.
I
But
doubt it.
When we were children, like you know, because Ireland in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have any money. So as a child at Halloween, what your parents would do would be paint your face and then pull a bin bag over you.
That's true.
That's what he looks like he's wearing.
I don't think it's homage. I think it's like, I have to find something fast and I have no money. Give me that bin back.
This is, and I say this is someone who, one of my favorite t-shirts is my Dustin Rhodes Keep Stepping t-shirt, because whenever he went through recovery, he would ring his father, Dusty Rhodes, whenever he was like feeling like he's about to fall off the wagon, and his dad, Dusty Rhodes, would tell him, just keep stepping, and that's his, to this day, that's his motto. And I always think of Dustin Rhodes as a hugely, even if he's not like one of my favorite wrestlers, I always think of him as a hugely inspirational figure. And obviously, to be inspirational, you have to have that low point that you crawled out of. But man, it's sad to see that point.
Have to say though, the knife cane.
You just couldn't get it.
It's
Man, take the heroin, take the stuff. More knife can.
it's a little cane, and it has a little hand on it, and it's holding a knife.
And then he hits him with the blunt.
He hits him with the blunt. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I just love the knife cane. It's like he sat around and thought that was a good idea. I know what it's funny because all the lads run out, right? They're like, no, Dustin, don't. And they're all having a little chat, and it just does a close up on the knife cane.
Yeah.
Kaz is like, no, don't.
And then Dustin, despite being armed,
It's what leaves.
backs off.
Like, not only is he armed, but he has an extra hand
Yeah, and a
Hold-
rat.
and a rat. Oh my god, it's so funny. I mean, no, it's not. It's really upsetting, but you know, now that we all know he's okay,
Yeah,
it's
and
really
he's better
funny.
than ever now.
And he's better now than ever.
His turnaround is incredible. Like,
It
he
really
is
is.
having better matches at 50 than he's having at 30. Like, that's
Oh yeah.
tremendous.
So here's the thing though, right? We are in for a treat, my friend, because up next we have the MVP of WCW. Steiner brothers. Scott Steiner back with his brother
in a dream match,
in a dream match with Team 3D, otherwise known as the Dudleys. Now here's the
whose
thing.
dream was this?
What?
Whose dream was this?
So look, Scott
Russo's.
Yeah, well, he was the one writing this at the time. So the thing about Scott Steiner is, right, so he came back and he gets a bad rep because we went back and had a look at late WCW, and he was there
Yeah.
every pay-per-view, every night, absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
And bringing Rick Steiner back as well was pretty cool. I remember people being very excited about this. Team 3D, I'll be honest with you, I never really liked them in TNA. I thought it was lame as all hell because it really is. But they got over. I mean, Bully Ray, or what did he call him here? Brother Ray?
Brother
Became
Ray.
Bully Ray and, became a main eventer. Again, I never saw him as a main eventer. I really didn't. I say this as a massive TNA fan. I never bought Team 3D, period.
Yeah.
I think once they lost the Dudley name, it did so much damage to them that they never actually really recovered from it. Is that controversial, or did you get
No,
because this?
absolutely not.
You see the way they're presenting themselves here. This is how they were, and it never had any impact beyond. But you're the Dudleys. But you're not the Dudleys. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Go on.
No, like it's that's a completely fair assessment. I mean, for me, the liability here was, like you said, everyone talks about how terrible Scott Steiner was. But when we went back and watched we did that WCW arc, my God, we earned it. we made our way through that. The last couple of pay-per-views were actually decent, and Scott Steiner was really putting in the work. Like, he's dependent on the type of match he's in. He's okay to good, but his what really sets him apart is his character and his mic work, his promos, and that. They're just in the most deranged way possible. They're sensational. So for me, the real worry here was Rick Steiner, who, whenever we went back and watched WCW, was dreadful. Like, I can't remember a single Rick Steiner match we watched where, I think because I loved them when they were the Steiner brothers in WWF.
Yeah.
I really had a soft spot for Rick. And it took me a couple of matches to accept that he's actually kind of terrible. So he was who I thought would be the liability in this match. The match itself, though, and I don't know, maybe I'm looking forward to hearing your views on this, surprisingly decent.
No, the match was good. I mean, the Dudleys were the Dudleys up until they couldn't be anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Scott Steiner had one of the best career runs ever in TNA. It's overshadowed by the fact his promos are completely unhinged. And you haven't even seen the worst of it. Like, he's completely unhinged. And I mean, it overshadows a lot of the work he did, but the work that he did was very, very good. I mean, TNA could and did do a lot of nonsense, but the actual in-ring stuff, particularly from the guys just on the tail end of their, this would be the couple of years removed from WCW, ECW. So they still had a fair bit left in the tank.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the tail end of what was left in the tank.
I have written here, they're not quite over the hill, but they are approaching the very top of it.
They are. They're like they're at the point where they're just about to start going down the hill.
Yeah, and that applies to all four of them.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like, Scott Steiner is still like Scott Steiner from WCW at this point. The Dudleys are very much the Dudleys, but they haven't grown at all. They're still just the Dudleys.
And it's funny you say that, because this is yet another example of they did the WhatsApp. They went to do the Dave and Headbutt thing, and the crowd is chanting same old shit, same old shit.
Yeah, because the crowd didn't like it. I mean, the crowd
the crowd
not
doesn't want
it.
any WWE bullshit.
No, and it's funny because, like, why people liked TNA was for what we've already talked about. The main of the lads putting on phenomenal matches.
Yeah.
Even Raven and Rhino, who were ECW, WCW guys, what the crowd liked was the fact that they were their guys. The Dudleys, the New Age Outlaws, they were all like, yeah, we're trading on a name. And they never really kind of got beyond that, which is kind of frustrating. Even when Bully Ray was there, they did the whole Aces and Eights thing. That's the worst thing ever.
I took my licks.
Yeah, it was not good. But, it was what it was. The Dudleys were still very much the heels here, even though the Steiners were the heels too. So it's a weird angle overall. This whole match is very weird. But look, I think the most egregious thing about this for me, and I'll let you finish on this, is Scott Steiner's tattoo. Like, I know it's the Sacred Heart, and there is a lot of respect for that as well. But don't know what it is. It's like Cody Rhodes' tattoo. It's like CM Punk's chest tattoo.
What do you call him? Lance Archer's tramp stamp before he got it tattooed over.
It's it's just like when you're like, okay, don't know why it was a choice was made. The wrong one.
That was.
Yeah, it was a choice.
I tell you what, though. In terms of Scott, like we already talked about how towards the end of his WCW run, he was actually leading the company and doing really well. We've already talked about his great pay-per-views. About his great interviews and promos. And
great's a very weird word to use, but okay.
It's what?
It's a weird word to use, but okay. I would say unique.
Yeah, well, his memorable.
Okay, is meme worthy.
His meme worthy promos and interviews. And we've already talked about the fact that he is actually pretty, with the right opponent, pretty decent in the ring.
Yes, absolutely.
But I didn't know. So during my research, I didn't know that this match was actually supposed to happen much earlier in the year.
Yes.
Either at the previous pay-per-view or the one before it.
Yes.
He was doing a match for an indie promotion when he got kicked so hard in the throat that his trachea collapsed.
Yes.
They had to cut him open
in the back.
Throat to chest, and like you said, go in through his back and basically rebuild his trachea. And he was literally, like, when they took him out of the ring and got him to the hospital, minutes from death.
Yes.
So I kind of have a newfound respect for him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
he's
not only going into this match, but also making the scar, like, so during the promos beforehand, the Team 3D, like, make fun of his scar, and they're like, in ECW, we would have called that a scratch, blah, blah, blah.
No, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have been able to pay your medical bills because the checks were bouncing.
Yeah, Heyman wasn't even paying you. He's going to cover your medical bills. But yeah, so once I read that, I was like, wow, bloody Steiner, he doesn't get his due.
No, he doesn't. He's some lad. Tell you, he really is.
The greatest Irish honour we can bestow.
Some lad.
Some lad.
So something really funny happens next, and it's funny because it's not funny in context, right? But for you, someone who isn't really a TNA aficionado, this is going to be very bizarre for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's bizarre when it happened, but it's bizarre because of who comes out. So, Pac-Man Jones comes out, and I think he's a basketball player. I don't know, but he would.
NFL America. I had to look him up as well.
Oh, really? Looked him up. Okay.
NFL American football player.
So he would end up becoming a tag team champion at one point, but that's much later.
What?
Yeah, he'll be tag team champion at some point for TNA. So that happens a little bit later on. But who comes out to confront them is R-Truth.
Ronald Truth. Murder.
Ronald Truth. Now, what's interesting about R-Truth is R-Truth wasn't always a joke. R-Truth is a joke in WWE. K-Quick, which is, just getting rowdy, that was still horrific.
He's a former world champion in TNA.
He is. This is the thing. This is what people might not remember. Ron the Truth Killings also stood up and put it up to John Cena before in an airport, and it was a whole big story before he came over to WWE. So he was kind of like the man in TNA for a while. And that's why him coming out to interrupt Pac-Man is a big deal. But it's funny when you're watching this now and you're like, that's R-Truth. This is silly. And it's just crazy because, I mean, like, all of the stuff that R-Truth did, or Ron the Truth Killings did, you just can't take it seriously because he's such a joke now. Little Jimmy, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm pretty sure he's made tons of money, and he also made a return at Survivor Series, which, massive pop over.
Overshadowed.
Overshadowed, exactly. Oh my God. Ron R-Truth's return.
Do you remember Survivor Series 2023 when R-Truth came back?
But it's funny because when you see him here, he's like deadly serious. Like the promo he cuts is fantastic, and you're like, wow, they're going to set up this promo. But then when you fast forward to 2024 and you have like, that's R-Truth. It's bizarre. It really is. But there you go. I mean, this is a little time capsule that doesn't make sense anywhere else,
And again, on my wee research, John, I found out that his name rings true. Ron Truth. His promo is the truth. So he comes out and he says, "Hey, Pac-Man," calls him a little bitch or whatever, that you have in your contract that nobody can touch you. So don't know what you're doing here. Like you're not here to wrestle, you're not here to fight, you're out here posturing. That is 100% true. Pac-Man was in the middle of suspension from the NFL.
Okay.
So they had negotiated a contract with TNA where Pac-Man could show up, but he couldn't do any in-ring stuff. And when Ron Killings runs down to the ring, like he's tackled by all these security guards, those aren't TNA. The other way, like wrestling security guards are like local jobbers or trainees or whatever.
Yeah.
That is legitimate security that was hired by the NFL. So that is legitimate real life security hired by the NFL so that nobody would touch him. Because it was all part of his contract. Right?
No way. So they're actual police force.
Mad. Yeah, well, I don't know if they're police, but they're like legitimate security.
Is that why they're so rough with them?
Yes, because they weren't like
they weren't working. They were actually trying to stop him.
They were all clued in on what was happening, but they are like, whether it's a work or not, somebody had moved towards Pac-Man, and they were
insane.
Yeah. So now the reason that they'd hired security wasn't because that they were afraid that a wrestler or a fan was going to like jump the ring and hit him. It was because the reason Pac-Man was serving a suspension was because about 11 months before this, him and his crew had gone into a strip club, and he'd been throwing money around, like getting all the strippers to dance up, and he was chucking money around, blah, blah, blah. And then, whenever he'd finished his dance or whatever, he sat down. The strippers the people who get paid by throwing money at them started to pick his money up off the floor. And he took exception to this, and he started punching the strippers. Like, literally beating these strippers. Security ran in.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
The strip club security ran in. His security ran in. There was a massive fight. The owner of the strip club then, during this, this battle, when crawling around on the ground, he gathered up loads of money. Apparently he got away with, it must have been a ridiculous amount. He got away with something like 80 grand, right?
Right.
So then Pac-Man left, but sent one of his goons back to the strip club later, who fired, took a machine gun and fired into the strip club, and
No way.
hit a couple of people. And so Pac-Man's on suspension while this trial is going on, and he ends up having to pay $11 million to the employees of the strip club. So that's why he's free to show up on TNA.
Wow. You know what?
Not take any bumps, because he beat up a load of women and then had some loves hitting women. No wonder he's in TNA. And then he sent one of his goons back to shoot some more. I love shooting women.
Oh my God. Oh well, that's so.
Told you I did me research.
You did, but folks, if nothing else, you get an education listening to this. Martin is bringing out everything.
And the worst part is, never mind about him beating up strippers. Never mind about him having people shot. Never mind about him throwing money at people and then taking it back, right? Here's what really bugged me. R-Truth says, oh, you're here. You're you got this stupid contract. You can't be touched. You're not a real fighter, blah, blah. And he stands up on the ropes and he goes, ha, 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 ha. The fakest. He's supposed to laugh at Ron Killings, and he can't even do a fake laugh. He literally goes, ha, 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 ha. Oh.
And he would become a tag team champion within the year.
Tag team champion. He can't even laugh.
He can't even laugh. So look, well, something we are going to have a laugh at, and it's fortunate because he has sadly passed, but it's still very funny. Not him passing, just the next segment.
Got dark.
So we have 11 minutes of nonsense, and this 11 minutes
on a hat.
So this 11 minutes is why I can't stand Adam Copeland or any kind of name, because it just triggers this. I get an image of Test running out with his shaved head, roided up body, and just having.
Surely you mean Andrew Martin.
Andrew Martin, exactly. Andrew the Punisher Martin.
Even though Andrew the Punisher Martin, weirdly, must be a fan or something, because he comes to the ring in Test gear. He's still wearing his Test ring trunks.
I mean, I'm assuming those trunks are expensive, but and I think he still has the Test tattoo as well.
He's been spending all his money on testosterone.
But he comes and he has this face on him, and it's just it's like he's huffing and puffing. He's gassed before he gets into the ring, and it's just horrendous. But what's worse is Mike Tenay and Don West are screaming, literally at this point they're screaming, "It's Andrew Martin! He's here!" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" So every time I hear Adam Copeland, it just triggers this match in my brain, and I can't undo it. So it's unfair. I do accept that, but did this match at least justify why that happened? Because here's the thing. So how you win this match, right? You have to make your opponent bleed. Then you can pin them, not before. So your objective here is
to make them bleed. And like you say, then you can pin them.
Yes.
And this also happens in a cage.
Yes.
Surrounded in barbed wire.
Yeah.
This match is a hat on a hat on a hat.
It is a complete mess, but it does have AJ Styles at the peak of his power. It has Abyss, one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
It has Tyson Tomko, a man who should have left after stealing, after robbing the fast food restaurant and shot up heroin at home instead of in
His own home.
exactly instead of in the bathroom, and that's why he's in jail and not with Christian Cage, because that would, that is one thing that AEW is missing. Actually, that's what they should do. We should start a thing, Justice for Tomko, where he can show up. He can show up at AEW with Christian Cage. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious. I'll be honest with you. Even though I'm joking, I'm also deadly serious. That would be like, I'd pop huge for that, and I'd get a Tomko t-shirt. It'd be amazing.
Also in this match, Christian Cage, AJ Styles, and Sting. What a bloody embarrassment of riches.
No, look, I'll be honest with you, right? So Sting's tenure in Impact or in TNA is so
mixed.
Bizarre. No, bizarre. Bizarre is the word we're using. We're not using the word mixed. It's bizarre. Because he'll do these like really, really good matches or these really good runs or angles, and then it'll be mixed in with this bizarre match. Like, he's in genuinely some of the worst Russo-rific nonsense in TNA. Like, he's there. The man is there. And the worst part about this is he could have been in the WWE wrestling The Undertaker. And he just isn't.
I mean, could he have been, because he went to the WWE and instead they just humiliated him?
Martin, we're not going to mention this. We're going to move on from that. But I mean, at the time when he could have been, he's in here having this garbage match. Like, it's terrible.
I mean, it's kind of fun, terrible.
It is fun.
But it is terrible. Like, nobody's going to say this is a good match.
No, it's very fun. I mean, I genuinely think it's hilarious. But at the same time, Pac-Man has been beaten up, and he's like, it's randomly intercut with him going into an ambulance, and he just looks bored.
But as per his contract, you never see him beaten up.
No, and he doesn't look
him laying on the ground, and we can assume that they had a team come in and gently lower him to the ground before the cameras were turned on.
Yeah, and he's just sitting there with his hands crossed, like he's like waiting to like go asleep.
Waiting to get paid and go home.
Exactly. But at this point, like, the lads are in there killing each other in a cage match, and it's like, listen, no one cares about Adam Pac-Man Jones. Just focus on the 5 of your biggest stars and Test in there, killing each other. And it's just crazy. Like, so what happens is basically during the course of the match, I think Tomko's the first one to get color, and then they slowly start bleeding more and more and more. I do like the 6-sided cage was always cool. I do think if TNA are going to bring that back,
it is really cool. Yeah,
like they should just bring the 6-sided ring back for Lockdown as a 6-sided cage. I think it's just such a unique look. Covenant and barbed wire is a bit much. I mean, Lethal Lockdown is cool in and of itself. Like, they should bring that back as like a 6-sided ring. But this was weird.
Actually would, yeah, for like a one-off pay-per-view, it would be, because I know the wrestlers don't like wrestling on it, but like once a year it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, because I mean, it's such a unique looking thing. Now, this is the first and only Doomsday Chamber of Blood match. They never once brought it back again, and you can see why, because it's absolute nonsense.
Even the name is a hat on a hat on a hat. So we're going to have a Doomsday. Oh, a Doomsday. No. A Doomsday Chamber. Oh, a Doomsday Chamber match. No. A Doomsday Chamber of Blood match. What? Are you finished? Can I?
There is a really good spot on it where they have the glass in the bag.
Oh, yeah.
And then they cut Abyss open with it. And it's a mangy spot.
Sick.
It's a mangy spot. It really is.
Now, look, I couldn't find anything on this, but from watching it,
no, it's real.
That looks legit.
No, it is legit. Like, so, Abyss, I'll be honest with you, like, Abyss is so underrated, and we're gonna watch Abyss matches, and the punishment that man puts his body through is more than Big Foley.
And he gets unfairly labeled as like a Mankind ripoff.
No, he's not. He's like a perfect mix between Kane and Mick Foley. Yeah. But then he does like more interesting. Like, I think his matches for somebody who spent most of his career underneath the mask, his performance is incredibly unique, and he gains a lot of sympathy, even though he's a monster. And it's just, he bleeds better than anybody else. That mask just, it looks great when, I know it's kind of sadistic, but he bleeds better than anybody.
He bleeds
like,
all over it.
It's such a cool visual. But I mean, in this match we have,
But before you go on from this spot, so
go on.
When Bret Hart and Stone Cold had their like really famous WrestleMania 12 match or 13, can't remember which.
13,
yeah. They're the really famous 13 match. Bret had said, "Look, I know we're not really supposed to, but like we want this match to go over massive, so I think you need to get some juice." Right? And he asked Austin, had he ever gigged himself? Had he ever cut himself? And Austin had said no. And Bret was like, okay, the number one rule in this business is you never ever let anyone else cut you.
Yeah. Because
they'll do it too deep or too wide or too long, and you'll end up either with a serious scar or possibly bleeding out. But he says, I've been doing this, 14, 15 years or whatever. I know what I'm doing. So if you want, I'll cut you, and I'll do it really safe and but this is a one-off. Never let anyone cut you, right? So I'm watching this, and that's going through my head as Christian is dragging this shard of glass across Abyss's head, right? And like he looks like he's doing it like pretty steady, like he's not being like, it looks gruesome, but it looks like a steady, deliberate, he's not like hacking and slashing at him. And then once he cuts him, he turns around and he just slashes his arm.
Just, like, the arm is bleeding worse than
it at him. Like it's, oh my god, it's mental.
Like, it's so crazy. Like, when the glass gets brought out, and this is how you know it's real. Like, the lads are getting more and more cut every time they're bumping near it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, this is just like, it is one of the most extreme matches you can see. And it's funny because, like, like modern WWE fans who watch AJ Styles would not notice, and lads who watch AEW wouldn't associate Christian with something like this. But you get to see, like, one, AJ, he can work this kind of style, and so can Christian, and they both take bumps that are violent bumps. It's such a cool match, and like halfway through it, when you're watching the ring, and the ring is just covered in blood, and you're like, damn, why were they doing this? Because it's a silly, nonsense, terrible match. But when AJ gets dropped on the glass, he gets a black hole slam on the glass. You're like, oh my god, AJ, holy hell! It's so violent.
Unfortunate that that in the current era we're in, where guys are having like incredibly like take the Hangman Page Swerve Strickland match, like incredibly violent, like really painful, punishing matches, but those matches are getting over and they have real meaning and storyline, and you can tell that match is going to be used to further their career for the next 10 years to come. They'll be using video packages of that match for the next decade. It's so unfortunate to see these guys putting themselves through the same thing for like a comedy nonsense bullshit match.
Like, you have obviously the baby faces winning, and I don't know why they thought Andrew the Punisher Martin was a baby face, because he wasn't. He never was. He's the ultimate bookly. And he's also, I believe, he's on the boy list as well. Because he is.
No, our Buckley list is entirely,
of course,
legally separate and distinct.
It's legally distinct and completely separate, but I do believe he has the honor of being on both. It's like the Hall of Fame in TNA and WWE. You can be on both. They are separate things.
In terms of good old Andrew the Punisher Martin, do you know where the name Test comes from?
No.
It was a rib, because whenever McMahon saw him and saw that he was so huge, like, as a rib, they called him Test, short for testosterone supplements.
Stop.
Yes, but
stop.
Swear to God. But
oh my god, that's so dark.
Then, because despite putting that rib on him, they then fired him for failing a wellness test.
It's like you knew what you were getting.
You brought him in. You brought the drug guy in. You called him drugs, and then you fired him for drugs. What do you do? At least TNA also fired him for testing positive for steroids.
Well,
but at least they didn't call him Andrew the Steroids Mark.
Andrew Righty Ride Martin.
Andrew Righty McGoo.
Like, here's the thing, though, right? This would be his one and only pay-per-view appearance. He would be pretty much done after this. And then sadness. You know, it's so unfortunate. It really is. It's like, why? And TNA would do this kind of stuff where they, for better or worse, they'd bring in people who they shouldn't have brought in.
So for anyone who doesn't know what we're referencing, Andrew Martin, or Test, died at the age of 33.
Yes, he did.
From an opioid overdose?
It was an overdose, yeah. And it was, you know, it is very sad. It genuinely is.
But like we were talking about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, like, it's just when wrestlers die, it's still like kind of a shock, and he's way too young to have died, even at that age. Like, you know,
even by the standard of wrestlers dying young, 33.
Exactly, 33. It's crazy young.
Most wrestlers aren't even hitting their peak.
But here's the thing, right? So he wasn't 33. He was like in his early 30s, and he looks about 50.
Yeah,
like the wear on his body, he looks a bit like a hard 50.
He died in 2009, so
yeah,
this is 2007. So
yeah, so like 31. Does not look like a 31-year-old man.
No,
you know, like he's walking out there looking like Randy Orton now, but yeah, Randy Orton is natural, and he was obviously juicing to high heaven, you know. And look, again, TNA would do stuff like this where they'd bring in people who they shouldn't have. I mean, Pac-Man, as we've discussed. You know,
Kurt Angle's whole thing.
Kurt Angle's
he was there exactly. He was addicted
Jeff
to
Hardy.
painkillers.
It was, you know, they would do stuff for better or worse where they should bring in guys and it might work and might help them. I mean, Black Rain. It's unfortunate, but
it's good that you mentioned Black Rain, because much like we were talking about how this was an incredible low point in Dustin Rhodes' life, we didn't end on that. We ended on the fact that he became so much better, and he recovered, and he became an inspirational figure. You know, he's amazingly still wrestling today. And when it comes to Andrew, the Test, Martin, I don't think we should focus on the steroids or the opioid addiction or his early death. I think we should honor him as the king he is. From 2001 to 2005 was sleeping with Stacy Keibler, and from 2007 to 2009 was banging Kelly. Rest in power, Andrew the Test Punisher Martin.
That's fair. Okay, you win. But listen, so we're going to move on from one source of nonsense to a whole other bunch. So I've never experienced this before. And it's one thing that I kind of forgot happened. Never have I ever, until this point, rewatching this show and obviously watching it when it happened, seen a match with not one, not two, but 3 graphics for what the match is for. At the beginning of this match, we get a graphic for the TNA tag titles, the TNA X Division Championship, and the TNA World Championship in sequence.
Yep.
Because
and they don't even mention the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
Like, do you think they would have had like some lad holding a piece of paper or something saying this too? You know, no, they just don't. But it was funny because this match, like, genuinely was for that title, and they would do it with when the Dudleys won the tag belts as well. They were defending belts that weren't theirs to defend on the show. Now, it was funny. Do you know who Kurt won that belt from?
Wait, which one? The tag title?
No, sorry. So going into this match, we had the tag belts were Joe He had both of them. He also had the X Division title
Who was he tag champion with?
himself.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
yeah,
So
I know.
this pay-per-view starts off with a tag team match for a singles title
Yeah.
and ends with a singles match for a tag title. TNA.
Kurt would have the world belt, but he also had the IWGP title, and
Yes.
he won that off.
Brock Lesnar.
He won it off Brock Lesnar. So this was the
And it
return of
wasn't
Brock.
even technically the IWGP title because the IWGP at that stage, or New Japan as it's known, had split. Inoki, who was the founder, had split from New Japan and set up his own Inoki something or other federation. But Lesnar still had the physical IWGP title, so he just took it with him when he went to Inoki's federation, and they just they were called IGF, but they just kept the IWGP title. Japan is mental.
Absolute nonsense. And again, James Truepenny, he's your man on this. He obviously is probably screaming at the computer going, there's more context.
I probably got so much of that wrong.
James,
So
we're
sorry.
sorry. We do what we can. We do what we can. It's nearly 4 a.m. for us here. We're trying.
Yeah.
We're trying. We're trying to work through TNA nonsense. So this is like, the beginning of Kurt Angle's power run, right? Where he's peak Kurt Angle. He's doing mad stuff like jumping off cages and flying off arenas and that. But it's also, as I said, the peak of TNA's steep decline, where the nonsense takes root and Vince Russo completely loses his mind and nobody says stop, and they bring in Hulk Hogan and it gets progressively worse. But at the same time, it's also such a weird angle because, like, Kurt Angle's literal wife divorces him at this point in real life, then hooks up with Jeff Jarrett, would marry Jeff Jarrett. So Kurt Angle is literally going through a real divorce at this point, where one of the storylines is he wants her to take her back, and she is playing like distraction for a match that's for all the belts.
Over the course of this pay-per-view, after every match, it cuts to backstage and we see a vignette of Kurt Angle's real-life wife, who's real-life divorcing him, like trying to ride someone backstage. And then we cut to Kurt Angle being really like it's actually, some of it's hilarious. Angle is such a good comedy wrestler. Like, he's amazing.
No, he is though. But this, like, I was in the so the video package play beforehand of him in his skivvies begging to be taken back.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm in the front row or in the second row, just with a look of puzzlement on my face, because they actually shot those segments back to back. So Kurt Angle came out wearing one set of clothes, and then they did the same thing with him wearing a different set of clothes. And I'm just there puzzled by the whole thing. So I remember this entire setup so vividly because I was there.
So there's a segment where his real life wife is like coming on to, I don't know, some rapper or some singer or something, and then there's a segment where Kurt can't focus on the match because he's so depressed, so he goes to his therapist. His therapist is Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Going, what in the name of God is happening?
See, that was Kevin Nash's role. He kind of just hung out with the X Division guys, just having a laugh.
Yeah.
So
that was all the guys in the business. Kevin Nash he had it down, didn't he?
He did. He's some lad. He really is.
He got as much money as possible to dick around and do as little as possible.
And be beloved because of it.
Oh my God. What a character.
What a legend.
What a legend.
Literally, what a legend, generally. Yeah, so look, the match itself here is actually quite good. Now,
it's brilliant.
Now, Kurt Angle and Joe would have a series of phenomenal matches in TNA, and anytime, like, look, it's Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. I don't need to sell you on how good this match is for anybody.
No,
but what is bizarre is the match itself is phenomenal, but the TNA nonsense. And look, I love TNA, but it has a lot of nonsense, and when it shows, if it's not controlled, it can take over the place. What brings this match down is halfway through it, Kurt Angle's real life wife walks out with some fella, some some random fella who we have no idea who it is.
Apparently, he's like a rapper or a singer or something.
Yeah, he looks like Kevin Federline. He looks like a bald Kevin Federline, right?
Yeah.
And she starts wearing the face off him.
In the front row.
In the front row.
Of Kurt's match.
His real life wife, who he's getting a divorce with, she is bet into him. And he's just sitting there. And the worst part about it is, like, he's some rapper. He's probably working in a Walmart or something now somewhere. Because, I mean...
Do you remember we were doing WCW and Kevin Federline was in it? We had to look up what he's doing.
What he's doing, yeah. I mean, like, if Kevin Federline isn't doing anything, I don't think your man is doing anything at all if he's not dead. And that's not a joke, but we just don't know because we're not looking up. I don't even know his name. Right? And no disrespect to anybody working in Walmart. Walmart's an honourable professional, but still.
Yeah.
I mean...
We're saying rap is dishonourable.
Yeah, rap is the problem here, folks.
Walmart is perfectly fine.
Exactly. Walmart's awesome.
Providing a service.
Exactly, an essential one, of course. But so this match is taken away by TNA nonsense because it's like it didn't need Kurt Angle's ass just being shown randomly. That's something
not only Kurt Angle's ass, and I'm glad you brought that up
because
this is like the third pulling the trousers down ass spot in this pay-per-view.
Yes, it's a lot.
It's like the third one.
It's the third one, but it's very egregious. It's very egregious.
Oh, this is by far the most graphic. Like Kurt is one step away from pulling his cheeks apart. Do you know sometimes when there's either a weekly show or a pay-per-view and the gays in the first match get do real hardcore stuff or get a load of blood. And then the guys in the main event also get blood, but it's not as impactful because you've already seen the guys in the first match get blood. It's kind of like that because like Kurt Angle gets his trousers pulled down and we see his arse, but like two guys have already done this spot in this pay. I have seen more than enough arses for one pay-per-view.
I didn't need to see it. I really didn't. And
great arse. Like he obviously does a lot of squats.
Well, I mean, it's Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle at his peak. So I think the most distracting part of it, again, it's just as good as the match is, and like Joe is in there, and it's given one of like his peak TNA performances, right?
Oh yeah.
But it just randomly cuts back to Kurt Angle, just like she's rubbing his leg, and it's like this is a lot, like, just for what it is, and it's like, why are we trying to insinuate here? Is that she's with him or she's trying to distract him? And I mean, Don West and Mike Tenay's comedy timing is like really funny on this because they're trying to dance around it. And Mike Tenay is like, he's just very much a straight guy in this, where he's just like, yeah, and she's here and it's horrible and blah blah. And Don West is just having these classic one-liners where it's like actually that's really funny. And I think the way WWE would do this, and it would be Terry King going, I wish she was here with me or whatever.
And my leg. That's my third leg.
Exactly. And Don West is like much more like coy and clever about it, and it just makes it more funny. And as something that would kind of be distracting, it's like, yeah, it's distracting in the match, but the commentators are like there with you. We're going, yeah, this is pretty weird, all right. And I just really enjoy the fact that they're like not in on it, but they're like aware of how weird it is, and that kind of adds such a nice little layer to the whole match.
Yeah, it's such a strange. So we talk about the finish then before we get into that. So basically, what happens is at some point during the match, there's a referee knockdown.
Yes.
Kurt Angle's wife, real life, who's real life divorcing, jumps the barricade and brings a chair with her, and she goes to hand the chair to Samoa Joe, for him to brain Kurt Angle.
Yes.
And then Samoa Joe goes to grab the chair. And she pulls the chair back and then hands it to Kurt Angle, who belts Samoa Joe with the chair and wins. So, like, a very unexpected swerve, but also, what in the name of God is happening?
Well, I mean, it worked, but it's a very long game. It's like, here, go and, like, manhandle my wife, random rapper.
Yeah,
and make out with her for like the whole night so I can swerve my opponent, who I was beating anyway.
So in future episodes of Impact or whatever, is that what the story is? That
no,
Kurt had set this all up, or
No.
Then what in the name of God happened?
They kind of went that way for a little while, and then it went back, and then Jeff Jarrett got involved with her, and then it became really awkward.
Was it a Russo swerve for swerve's sake?
It was, but then it like what happened was real life actually happened, and then Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett had a little kind of tiff. So it was kind of like a setup, but then it wasn't.
Did they ever? Oh, apologies. Did Angle and Jarrett ever have an in-ring match over this?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, there was a whole feud.
God, imagine going to work every day with a guy banging your wife.
Well, that like as I said, like this was kind of like a this was
Wrestling
kind of
a,
this kind of was a setup, right? And obviously the end of it, so they go off the air where the rapper comes in and he's holding all the belts with Karen Angle and stuff like that, and it you're like, okay, that's the story, and the story would kind of pick it up again, but it progresses over.
So the rapper's involved in it.
Apparently, yeah. So this was all kind
Cock Angle.
and that's kind of what happened. So I mean, Kurt Angle didn't look good at the end of this. Samoa Joe didn't look good at the end of this, but I think it was a swerve just for the sake of a swerve.
But it's such this match is such a weird juxtaposition because the in-ring stuff is excellent.
It's fire.
And it's old school. It's really intense Kurt Angle, and Samoa Joe's never changed. It's super intense Samoa Joe and really intense Kurt Angle. And there's some awesome spots towards the end of this where they're like, and this sounds awkward, but it's done incredibly smooth. Where like 2 or 3 times they switch from a Kikina clutch to an ankle lock, to a Kikina clutch to an ankle lock, and it's done so well. But the whole way through this like really excellent wrestling match, it keeps cutting to this like WWE sports entertainment nonsense, and then it's this great match with this great like finishing sequence, but then it has this nonsense sports entertainment ending. Oh, it's such a weird juxtaposition. I honestly don't know how I feel about it.
Well, look,
but it was fascinating to watch.
So let me try help you a little bit here, right? So this is considered by some to be the worst pay-per-view of 2007 by TNA, which I think is unfair. It's considered to be one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time by some people, and it's considered to be just a weird pay-per-view by others. Now, I would sit firmly in the middle there, where, yeah, it's very weird. It has some great moments, and it also has some terrible finishes. And I think the finishes in lots of these are because Russo just could not control himself. I mean, there was no need for a lot of the nonsense. There was no need for a lot of the run-ins. There was no need for Pac-Man Jones. There was no need for,
Why did people keep hiring him?
I don't know. But, like, wait, sorry, Pac-Man or Russo?
Well, I mean, both, but mainly Russo.
I think it was just because, like, Russo would have some good ideas. And, I mean, on the show, there were some good ideas, and obviously the locker room liked them as well. But, like, the Doomsday Chamber of Blood match was nonsense, but good, but nonsense. The main event was phenomenal, but a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying to you. I think this is like the pinnacle where they not only jumped the shark, but they like put the shark in a little van and drove it away, and then jumped it over a bigger shark. Because it's like you can't really like the Avengers, right? When they beat Thanos, you can't really go bigger than that without being ridiculous, and that's what they kind of did with the Eternals. That's what kind of happened with TNA.
It's Mega Thanos.
Exactly. They like, it's like, oh, all the belts, and you're like, okay, but now what do we do? You've literally
belts from other companies.
No, but they've done that as well. It's like, now what do you do? I don't know. Okay. We don't know what to do, and that's kind of what happened. Like two of the matches that happened were like for title shots. One for a single guy to go against for the tag team belts, and then in the Doomsday Chamber of Blood match, the guy who got the pin like was Abyss, so he became the number 1 contender for the belt at No Surrender, right? Which was the next pay-per-view. But nobody cared about that because like Kurt Angle's walking around with literally all the belts.
I mean, I can't even two minds about that because
Like, there's only one match. Sorry, go on. I'll let you
It
finish talking.
It does, like, the match for all the belts. It kind of makes both of them look amazing. Like the match itself, like you say, by the end didn't, but the build up to it all, like all the titles in the line, both of them standing there dripping in gold. You know, because Samoa Joe had the X Division and the tag titles, and Kurt had the TNA title and the IWGP or IGF title or whatever it was. And the two of them standing there with their multiple belts putting it on the line, absolutely dripping in gold. Like, it made both of them look like just giants. And there are, like, after Kurt won, like you say, nobody really came out of this looking good by the ending. But there are, like, promos and videos later on where you see Kurt standing up with, like, what has he got, like 6 belts on his arms, and he looks incredible. Like, it's a lot like sometimes we talk about how the Undertaker's career is much better in video packages. I mean, those shots with all the belts and that, like, that's going to look pretty cool in video packages, even if at the time it was a bit odd.
That's fair. And look, okay, how about we do this? What would you give this pay-per-view as a letter grade?
Oh, man.
Like, all considered. What's your gut saying?
I'd give this I think a solid B is fair.
I think that's fair, and that's kind of my grade on this as well.
I think it has peaks of A+ and lows of D-, but yeah, I think overall as a show, a solid B is fair. And like we said at the start, there's other pay-per-views where we go, oh, it's a load of dung, but watch this match or watch this pay-per-view, like, or watch this segment or whatever. Nah, if you're going to watch this, watch this from start to finish.
And you know what, I agree. I think it's a solid show. There's something really there for everybody. I mean, I would defy anybody who's like, oh, there's nothing on that for me. There absolutely was. I know it says a lot about you depending on what you pick, but you know, it absolutely is going to be something there for everybody. And I think TNA
I absolutely loved the humiliation match.
Well, I mean, Miss Brooks was there, so come on. But like, I mean, if you were watching this, I think this would be a good kind of like opener to give somebody, and that's why I chose it. This is a good opener to give somebody TNA. It's a primer for everything. It has like the peaks, as you said, like A+ peaks, and then it has the lows, the D- lows. But then it has like the weirdness as well. It's like a weird show, and I mean, AEW doesn't do that. It has like has flashes. WWE definitely doesn't do it. WCW doesn't do it. This like specifically contains weird TNA flashes that only existed in TNA and still only do. And I mean, that's kind of the charm of it. And like, I'll probably pick more of these from time to time where we need a break just to kind of watch something fun from TNA or something bad from TNA. If you insist again, like, I want to watch a show run by ECW guys. Okay.
or to get through this in your house arc that I've forced you into.
I mean, you know, we got to have a little detour into the joys of TNA. But yeah, I would say if you've never seen this before, folks, again, thank you for listening to our podcast about it. We appreciate it. But at the same time, you know, all these shows are free on YouTube. If this is your first time thinking about TNA, you can actually go back and watch them, and that's kind of what we're doing. Like, I mean, it's so easy for us to do TNA because it's right there. We don't need to buy anything. We don't need to pay for anything. We don't need to even, illicitly get it. It's just on YouTube. It's the perfect
primer. It's coming back. Like, if you want to know why they've gone from Impact back to TNA, this is it. This is why, because these are the heights, sometimes the ludicrous heights, but these are the heights that they associate those initials with.
And Martin said it better than I have. Martin, thank you so much for that. That is a phenomenal way to bookend the show. You're an absolute poet. Like, I mean, you literally are. But you put it better than I have. So thank you for that.
No worries, Cameron.
Right. Well, look, guys, we're going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed the show, please do subscribe to either our feed on Nerd to Know Media or over on the True Penny channel. Our social media is there as well. Martin will be manning it. So if you are talking on social media, it will be him who's responding. It will not be me. So excuse the anti-punk rant because I'm assuming they're going to be coming. but we are going to kind of get better with that into the new year. And again, we do appreciate the support. Thank you for everybody who listened to us this year, because our wrap was actually really cool to see. So that was super neat for everybody who have listened to any of our shows. We do definitely appreciate it. And again, if you want to get in touch with us, social media is the best way to do it. TheWrestlingRewind.com has all the links, because our links are all there and I'm not going to read them all out. But you can reach us email, Twitter or X, Facebook, all that good stuff. And Martin, is something you want to plug before we wrap up for this evening?
Rest in peace, Shane McGowan.
And Andrew the Punisher Martin.
And Andrew the Punisher Martin.
Folks,
no doubt they're both up in heaven, supping a pint and shooting steroids.
Oh my god. Well, folks, that's going to do it. Again, we'll be back next week to talk probably about In Your House and plenty more on Homer Simpson, aka CM Punk. We'll talk to you later, guys. Have a good one. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.